It's gonna sit there.
Unless it's fast. But it works.
Yeah.
Okay, I'd like to call this meeting of your Newark City Council to order. Let's call
Mr. Fennell?
Here.
Ms. Hall? Here. Mr. Harris?
Here.
Mr. Labutus? Mr. Lang? Mr. Marmy?
Present.
Mr. Rath?
Here.
Mr. Barker?
Here.
Mr. Blake?
Here.
Ms. Collier? Here.
the yeah, 8 here or present this evening. Next on the agenda, we have the invocation by Mr. Blake. Please rise.
You got feedback.
Bow your heads. Precious Lord, we thank you. We thank you for the many blessings that you've given our community, the many blessings that you've given us individually and collectively. And we thank you for returning our colleague, Councilwoman Hall, tonight. Thank you for making her well, giving her strength to return to us for another night of dialogue and action. Give us strength and guidance as we make decisions on behalf of the people of Newark and make this city safer and stronger and do well in your guidance and in your vision. And all these things we ask, and we thank you. Amen.
Amen. Please remain standing. We have Eric Parkinson, a 5th grader from Cherry Valley Elementary. He's going to come up and lead us into pledge. So there's whenever you're ready.
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, Eric. Good job. Next on the agenda this evening, we have caucus. That's the time for council to discuss anything pertaining to the agenda tonight. Do we have anything? Mr. Martin.
Thank you, Mr. President. I make a motion to excuse Mr. Labutus and Mr. Lang.
Motion by Mr. Marmy, excuse Mr. Labutus and Mr. Lamb.
Second.
Second by Mr. Blake. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. That passes. Thank you, Mr. Marmy. Do you want to discuss Rule 11 this evening?
Yes, we can go ahead and bring up Rule 11 for Resolution 21-80.
Mr. Blake, I'm
Yeah.
okay with you? Okay. Janine, would you please read 21-80?
Resolution number 21-80 by Mr. Rath, a resolution authorizing and directing the Director of Law to prepare and submit a petition to conform the boundaries of the city of Newark and the Township of Granville and Licking County, Ohio, and declaring an emergency.
You've heard the reading of 21-80. It is an emergency. What is your wish?
Mr. President,
Mr. Rath.
motion to adopt 21-80.
Motion to adopt by Mr. Rath. Second by Mr. Barker. Is there any discussion on 21-80? I believe we're doing this because the law director's office needed this done for the situation at the county. Would you like to add anything to that?
Note that this was just at the request of the county, Granville Township, and we need to get it done for the team.
Thank you. Seeing no discussion, Janine, please call the roll to vote.
Mr. Fennell?
Yes.
Ms. Hall?
Yes.
Mr. Harris?
Yes.
Ms. Collier?
Yes.
Mr. Labutus? Mr. Lang? Mr. Marmy?
Yes.
Mr. Rath?
Yes.
Mr. Barker?
Yes.
Mr. Blake?
Yes.
21-80 passes 8-0. Thank you, Mr. Marmy, for doing that. Do we have anything else for caucus this evening?
Mr. President,
Ms. Lawyer.
I will need to abstain from ordinance 21-26 and 21-27.
21, okay, thank you. Anything else for caucus? Next, we have the minutes of our November 15th, 2021 meeting. A motion to approve those. Motion by Mr. Barker.
Second.
Second by Mrs. Lawyer. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. That passes. Next, we have our proposed Newark City Council committee assignments, actually for the remainder of 2021, which will be one more meeting, I guess. As you can see, those are listed on your agenda here. So motion to approve those.
So moved.
Motion by Mr. Marmy, second by Mr. Blake. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. That passes. Thank you. Are we done? Next on the agenda, we have appointments by Merrick Hall. We have two of those. Reappointing Linda Parks and Mark Motter to the Licking County Tax Incentive Review Council, terms beginning January 1, 2022 and expiring December 31st, 2023. Mayor Hall.
Yeah, they are reappointments. That group meets once a year, and we appreciate their serving time on that. As the pay is very low, so zero. And but anyways, I would ask that you reappoint them to that position. So, thank you.
Thank you, Mayor. Any questions? All in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. That passes. Thank you. And also Mayor Hall reappointing Jack Ginger to the City of Newark Board of Zoning Adjustments, term beginning January 1, 2022, expired December 31st, 2025.
You know, also a reappointment. Jack does a wonderful job. They do meet monthly and have a little bit more on their agenda, so we appreciate him serving in that capacity also. And he obviously would love to do that again, so we I seek his approval for that reappointment also.
That also pays the same amount.
And pays.
That's correct. Thank you, Mayor. Any questions? All in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. That passes. We have two reports this evening from standing committees, one from finance and one from service. Without objection, those will be received and filed. No reports this evening from city officials. We have three communications this evening, two from the Ohio Division of Liquor Control and one from Columbia Gas, as listed there on your agenda. A new liquor permit application for LBY2 Inc., DBA J Store, 730 West Church Street. Also a new liquor permit application, Ernest L. Drum for Drums Family Billiards, 1987 Kaufman Road, Newark, and one from Columbia Gas 2021 Infrastructure Replacement Program. Without objection, those will be received and filed. Next on the agenda this evening, we have two public hearings. First one we're going to do, we're going to open this public hearing. I'm going to have Janine read the public hearing. We're going to open it, and then we'll be open for any comments for or against. Janine, read the public hearing. First one, 2126.
Notice is hereby given that the New York City Council shall at a later date be determined and announced hereafter take action upon ordinance number 21-26. Said ordinance accepts a proposed amendment to the zoning map attached to ordinance 833A, which would allow the change of zoning classification of certain real property generally described as 1991 Cherry Valley Road, City of Newark, Licking County, Ohio. The amendment would change the zoning of properties from MFC multifamily condo district to single-family residence, RH high-density district zoning code of the City of Newark, Ohio.
The Planning Commission has reviewed this and recommended RH, single-family residence, high-density district. So we're going to open this public hearing. Do we have anyone who would like to speak for or against this public hearing? Again, anyone would like to speak for or against? Just raise your hand. I'll have you come up. One more time. Anyone like to speak on this for or against? Seeing none, we're going to close the public hearing. Janine, would you read 21-26 for a second time, and then we'll vote.
Ordinance number 21-26 by Mr. Rath and Mr. Parker, an ordinance changing the zoning classification of certain real property generally described as 1991 Cherry Valley Road, City of Newark, Licking County, Ohio, from that of MFC multifamily condo district to single-family residence RH high-density district zoning code of the City of Newark, Ohio.
Do we have any discussion on 21-26? Mr. Rath.
I'd like to make a motion to adopt 21-26.
Motion to adopt by Mr. Rath.
Second.
Second by Mr. Marmy. Any other discussion? Seeing none, Janine, please call the roll vote.
Mr. Fennell,
Yes.
Ms. Hall,
Yes.
Mr. Harris.
Yes.
Ms. Hattinger,
Abstain?
Mr. Labutus, Mr. Lang, Mr. Marmy,
Yes.
Mr. Rath,
Yes.
Mr. Parker.
Yes.
Mr. Blake.
Yes.
21-26 passes 7-0 with one abstention. Next, we're going to do our other public hearing. It would be 21-27. Janine, if you'd like to read that for me.
Ordinance number 21-27 by Mr. Rath, Mr. Barker, and Mr. Labutus, an ordinance changing the zoning classification of certain real property generally described as 2023 Cherry Valley Road, City of Newark, Licking County, Ohio, from that of MFR multifamily residence district to single-family residence RH high-density district zoning code of the City of Newark, Ohio.
I'm going to open this public hearing again. We're going to give you an opportunity for anyone who'd like to speak for or against. The Planning Commission has heard this and recommended RH single-family residence high-density district. I'm going to open this public hearing. Would there be anyone who'd like to speak for or against? Ma'am, well, come on up, give us your name and address for the record.
Okay, I'm kind of confused by the relationship between the name is Rochelle Bowman's net 237 Violet Court. I'm sort of confused by these. Evidently, the two situations are related, and I think the public has a right to know what sort of is this going to be used for manufacturing in some way, and what sort of fashion. I think the public does have a right to do that. And how is it being connected with a single family residence? I'm having trouble picturing the property, although I kind of know the area. If that could be explained to me, I would really appreciate it.
Thank you. Mr. Lehman? I believe this has been approved, RH single family resident. I didn't see anything about manufacturing, but I'm sure you can put it up.
My name is Steve Lehman, 915 Hawthorne Lane. I'm a member of the partnership that owns both these parcels. Actually, there are 3 parcels involved. There's a combination of zoning. One of them has already been zoned, single family residential. We've tried to figure out 10 years how to develop this ground. We think we finally figured it out. There's about 25 acres that's involved between the 3 parcels, 2 of which are rezoning tonight. And we want to put 66 single family home sites on the ground. So that's how it'll be used.
Thank you. Anyone else like to speak for or against? One more time, anyone like to speak for or against? We're going to go ahead and close this public hearing. Would you read 21-27?
Ordinance number 21-27 by Mr. Rath, Mr. Barker, Mr. Labutus, an ordinance changing the zoning classification of certain real property generally described as 2023 Cherry Valley Road, City of Newark, Licking County, Ohio, from that of MFR Multi-Family Residence District to Single Family Residence RH High Density District, zoning code of the City of Newark, Ohio.
Heard the second reading of 21-27. What is your wish?
Mr.
Mr.
President,
Rath.
I'd like to make a motion to adopt 21-27.
Motion by Mr. Rath,
Second.
second by Mr. Marmy. Is there any other discussion on 21-27 before we vote? Seeing none, Janine, please call the roll vote.
Mr. Fennell,
Yes.
Ms. Hall,
Yes.
Mr. Harris.
Yes.
Mr. Labutus, Mr. Lang, Mr. Marmy,
Yes.
Mr. Rath,
Yes.
Ms. Hattinger,
Abstain?
Mr. Barker,
Yes.
Mr. Blake.
Yes.
21-27 passes 7-0 with 1 abstention. Okay, thank you very much. Next on the agenda, we have comments from citizens. Again, this is not a debate with council or a question and answer period. This is just your opportunity to be heard. If you come up and give us your name and address for the record. And if you'd like to speak, if you put your hand up and I can call you guys up as we go. First, we'll go with Mr. Smith.
Good evening. Before I get started in earnest, I want to just make a comment that appreciating the work, the good work that the city roads and service maintenance people did in replacing the storm sewer by our house. So it was done promptly. They were out there working the day after I sent the message to Mr. Rhodes about the problem. They did the work quickly, efficiently, and very well as far as I can see. So I was very appreciative of that.
Thank you. Would you give us your name and address?
Sorry.
That's okay.
Stephen Smith, 237 Violet Court. You called me up by name, so
I know.
You know me.
This way it's easier for people.
Yeah. On November 1st, I was here and there were a lot of people speaking. And I was very dismayed at the lack of compassion that I heard on the part of some of the speakers, and actually even on, I hope I'm misinterpreting, but part on some of the council members. There are several things I want to discuss. A lot of people spoke up of the problems relating to homelessness in our city, and it is a big problem. It's an issue that needs to be treated holistically, in my view. The police response to the problems of homelessness is a treatment of the symptoms of the problem. It's not addressing the problem. Now, symptoms do need to be treated. Don't get me wrong about that. But as long as we're only treating the symptoms, we're just going to be doing the same thing over and over and over again. Same problems are going to start up. It's been shown in a number of areas that providing housing for homeless people, low barrier housing for homeless, is actually a money saver for the community. There was a project in Los Angeles, whole person care Brand Corporation analysis said that determined that for every $1 that they spent on the program, they got about $1.20 in savings based on lack of services for emergency care or other social services. A similar situation in Charlotte, North Carolina, determined that a homeless person there this was in 2014. A homeless person cost more than $31,000 per year to the community. They could house that person for something like, I think it was $18,000. And over time, they showed a savings of $1.8 million. So we have the opportunity to improve the city and save money. It's not only the right thing to do from a compassionate standpoint, it's fiscally responsible. Another topic I'd like to discuss is there is a lot of discussion about fentanyl test strips and how we can't do that because they're illegal in our state. I agree that they're illegal. I was quite surprised to find that out. It seemed like it should have been. When I first heard that, I was sure that was a mistake. And unfortunately, I found out it's correct. This is despite the fact that many national drug and healthcare policy organizations support these. The Substance Abuse and Mental Health Services Administration, the U.S. National Institute on Drug Abuse, and the Centers for Disease Control all support distribution of fentanyl test strips. This is a proven technology to help save lives. Fentanyl is far more potent and deadly than other opioids that people might be using, and is often a contaminant used to cut drugs like heroin and so forth. It's a compassionate thing to do to save lives for these people, to provide them with the means to detect if their substances have been contaminated with fentanyl. I totally don't approve of people using illegal drugs. And I think we should provide them with the opportunity to get treatment for their problems or their addiction. But they have to survive to get the treatment. I think the compassionate thing to do is to allow that distribution of fentanyl test strips. I realize it's illegal. But bad laws can be changed. And I think there's no question that this is a bad law. I have personally contacted my state representatives and asked them about this. I did get a response from Jay Heininger, said he would bring it up to the Health Commission Chair, Dr. Stephen Huffman, now, and would consider that if it comes up. Sort of a non-response in a sense, but hopefully, if other people were to add their voices to that, something could be done. My last, I swear this is my last one, point is that there was, someone spoke about basically private police forces or vigilantes or something. Throughout the phrase an armed society is a polite society, which has been used a lot by gun control or gun rights advocates. Well, I would like, in response to that, I would like to politely say bunk. In the United States, we have one of the highest rates of gun ownership. And I don't think we've seen an increase in politeness. Perhaps people don't know where that quote comes from. The science fiction writer Robert Heinlein, in a novel that was written in the 40s, Beyond This Horizon. That's where that particular quote comes from. The book was heavily influenced by Aldous Huxley's Brave New World, sort of an anti-utopian novel. That armed society is a polite society is sort of taken out of context in this book. I'll read you the whole passage. So I'm quoting now. Starts, an armed society is a polite society. Manners are good when one may have to back up his acts with his life. For me, politeness is a sine qua non of civilization. That's a personal evaluation only. But gunfighting has a strong biological use. We do not have enough things to kill off the weak and the stupid these days. But to stay alive as an armed citizen, a man has to be either quick with his wits or quick with his hands, preferably both. End quote. This is the sort of attitude that gives us things like George Zimmerman and Kyle Rittenhouse's and other mass killings that we've experienced with appalling regularity. This attitude is the law of the jungle. Mutual assured destruction on a personal basis. I don't think that's what we want. Yeah, I hear the argument that you need to have a gun for self-protection. Well, never understood that. A gun is not a defensive weapon. A gun is offense. At best, it's a matter of I'll shoot you before you shoot me. In a article from Psychology Today in 2016, stated that in that year, there were around, in round numbers, 30,000 gun-related homicides. 20,000 of them were suicides. Of the 10,000 or so non-suicide gun deaths, there were around 1,000 a year in from accidents in hunting and other various accidents with or intentional shootings between family members and friends. And it brought out the statistic that 1,000 a year or so is twice as many as pedestrian and car fatalities. You are more likely to get hit by a bullet in a car. Altogether in that year, about 250 shootings of bad guys, people that were intruders. The statistics are pretty clear. That gun is more likely to hurt you or one of your family members than it's ever going to be used against an intruder. This proposal or the attitude of promoting gun ownership, again, is assuring that more people will suffer and die. I don't think that's what we want to do as a society. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Mrs. Blake.
Desiree Blake, 125 South Second Street. I just want to thank Rose and his department filling the holes up on Fleet Street. They've been there many times this year, filling those up, and I fear that Fleet Street is going to get fixed next year, hopefully. So we won't have that because I know it's winter coming. in the snow and stuff, the street's small, but I just don't want people to hit my car. And another thing, I would thank the police department going over next door to that garage that's next door to me where the homeless been setting. There's little fires, they're trying to keep warm and smoking, and I tried to tell them, you're not allowed to stay there, but they were there again. And the police were there and the people there to help clean that mess up. So I'm hoping that they can get hold of the landlord, so the landlord can do something about the garage, tear it down, the roof is about to ready to fall down before someone really get in there and hurt themselves if it do fall or they do catch fire, because if they do, then that garage next to them is going to catch and it's going to hit my side. And then they're going to talk about something. But otherwise, I just want to thank the police department and property maintenance, come down, doing what they're supposed to do. And I appreciate that. Thank you.
Thank you. Ma'am? Anyone else would like to speak to section while she's on her way up?
My name is Jesse. I'm currently homeless because I helped people out that were homeless, and that got me in trouble. But what I'm here is I think we've been trying to find, me and my husband has been trying to find, but we've been trying to find a place. And I think there needs to be the crime rates are going up because of homeless people too. So I think there needs to be an apartment complex or something that the homeless people can get into where they can live, because a lot of landlords, if you have a background of any kind, turns you away. And that's not good, because that is making people also break the law. So that's not helping the cops at all. That's not helping nobody with homeless. What I'm saying is it would be better if they had a place to go that is off the streets, because living the home Salvation Army is packed. They can't fit another person in. I've called a couple of places, and Newark is way worse than Lancaster. And you guys have more things out there for people that are homeless, but apparently it's not working, because there's still a lot more people here than there is in Lancaster. And I think that maybe they need to get a complex that would help, that people can go to, that somebody's in charge of, that people can go to, because that would save Paul, because they put you up, people up in motels. That would save a lot of people money. Instead of putting them somewhere for a week, they could put them somewhere where they can be. And somehow, there's people coming from other to this county from other counties that are homeless, because they feel like there's more resources. But somebody needs to explain to these people that that's not yes, you guys have resources, but you guys don't, it's not like they think before they come here, because they're coming here anyways because they think they're going to get help, and it's not like that. They're coming here for the wrong reasons, then they're ending up on tents, and then you have a bunch of people living in tents and stuff, and it's really bad. And it's winter time, and it's almost Christmas time, and I know, my friend Robert, he's got born out of this county because he stole a sandwich, which he's been in Lancaster County. He's been in Lancaster County for a while now, because but he's I know some of the homeless people individually, and know some of what they do so I know that the crime rate would probably help go back down if there was places that you can put these people that would help them, because they wouldn't be out breaking the law. I know some of them wouldn't be out breaking the law if they had a choice, because they want to live normal lives, and they want the help, but that help's not there. for them. And, I can speak on this personally because I house 16 people in my home in Lancaster. And, so I lost it. But I moved down here and started like being in a motel, like living out of motels and stuff. And, I see it worse down here than I did in Lancaster, and I thought Lancaster had it pretty bad. And it makes me feel bad, really bad, and like want to help these people, but I don't know what to do. So somebody said to come here and speak, because that's the start. So I didn't I'm asking for help, to get these people, to help some of these people get off the streets, because one of the ladies, I'm not gonna mention her name, but I know her personally, I went to school with her. And she means something to me because I grew up with her my whole life. She came over to my house, she came over to my house all the time. And we never thought she would be on the street, and living in a tent on the streets of Newark. We never thought that in 1,000,000 years. We thought a bunch of things, but we never thought she would be here on the streets of Newark. So I'm asking for help for them. It's probably going to help the police too. It's not just going to help them, it's going to help the police, because you have people doing drugs. You have people doing drugs and different things. If you had a place that they were going, like an apartment, you may be able to live and do it where people can get checked, and then if they do fail, then they can go to a rehab. Because I'm not saying drugs don't pay or letting them do that, but what I'm saying is get them a place to go, help them get better if they want the help. Because people deserve that if they want it bad enough. Because I know some of my friends that are homeless want it really bad, but they never can get ahead. They always end up it always ends up where they're always not ahead, they're always falling back. Because they have, they're going out, they're not making things better, but they don't have nothing, I don't know what they can do. Because landlords turn you away. They say, if you have anything on your record or anything, they don't give you a second chance. And I believe in second chances, and God tells me to give me God tells me to give people a second chance, if they want it. So it's not only coming from me, God tells to give second chances. And I'm asking to help to get these guys some second chances. Because I don't want to see any of them die during the winter. Because that would be devastating.
Okay, thank you. I think everyone up here feels bad about your situation, about the homeless situation. But just speaking for me, I'm not sure the city is responsible for housing the homeless. I mean, I don't know how we do that. So, sir, anyone else like to speak this section? Ma'am, anyone else?
Rochelle Boland Smith, 237 Violet Court. Thank you for your patience. Rochelle Boland Smith, 237 Violet Court.
You notice how polite I'm being. Tell it to your
It's a learning curve. It's a learning curve. Okay, I too would like to thank Newark Street Maintenance workers for repair on a caving storm drain on Green Meadow. Due to the very long detour traffic and multitude of heavy trucks, it really took its toll on our street. And I'd like to say that the men diligently and professionally attended to that part of the problem, and I'm grateful for the fine work. I'm also grateful for the Rotary Club playground, because it is a step in the right direction on accessibility for children and adults. But it does currently need some repair. There's some really dangerous wreckage on it that's actually been there for a couple of years now. So I hope the city can take care of that. Changing the topic. On November 1st, the day before election day, there was quite a dog and pony show at council. For one, there was the suggestion of substituting the police with other options. And I'm not sure whether the person speaking meant privatization, vigilantism, mafia, or pay to play. It was kind of ridiculous. I think I personally feel that there can be constant improvement with continued education and that sort of thing, but I do not feel we need a drastic change as far as policing is concerned. I do think we need to rethink some things. About the comment about an armed society as a polite society. I believe that comment to be an alarmed, misinformed misquote. Somehow gun purchases for the season of enlightenment and peace seem extremely inappropriate. Recently, I think everybody's aware that in the news there was a family that, and it's only one of them, we have it here too, bought their child a gun for Christmas. And I just can't say how wrong I feel that is. I think it's possible to have, I do not believe that arming society makes them polite. Teaching them alternatives is a better solution. And I myself have created programs in order to do that. I think that we need to teach that violence is the last resort, and with responsibility. It's not something we want to teach our children. And by the way, it says in the Constitution that the line is about a well-regulated militia, not that everybody should have a gun. About the city's drug problem. We have pushed adults to medicate themselves and their children drugs without full information of their effect. It often seems easier to treat symptoms rather than the full problem. And this has led to our work on drug problem. I've seen a number of I've seen a number of articles and videos and things like that on how our pharmaceutical companies have introduced drugs without giving the full details on what the implications are. A lot of people have been coerced into giving their kids drugs for ADD. A lot of people have been pushed into taking pain medications without, and the doctors themselves didn't even know how addictive the stuff was. So an example is OxyContin and fentanyl. With OxyContin, West Virginia was one of the targeted areas where they introduced the drug as a solution to making it easier for people to work their jobs through their pain. Not realizing that it in itself is addictive and would actually increase the pain. And with fentanyl, that is a Jensen and now a Johnson & Johnson product, incredibly deadly and not regulated enough. I kind of feel that that society has contributed to the problem and that we have to be part of the solution, and it has to be holistic. West Virginia has tackled the problem. They a lot more holistically, in my opinion, than this area. And I think it's a model to look at. It's comparable economically. They're dealing with dogs, with drugs. They do have needle exchange. They tackled housing. They've been introducing the arts and supporting artists a lot better than we do. I think we have to look into what they're doing, as well as a bunch of other areas. In terms of the fentanyl strips, the problem is that the strips are very deadly. I'm sorry, the drug is very deadly. And what the purpose of the strips is for is simply to test for the unexpected presence of the drug. Not for encouraging people. A lot of people are taking fentanyl without being aware that they're taking it. And I think it's imperative that we reconsider our policy on that to prevent human loss. In addition, another drug. Several years ago, Council announced that it was planning on closing a number of bars and other liquor sources. And instead, we're actually increasing the availability while not necessarily monitoring the amount that people are drinking closely, especially if they're buying it from a grocery store or a gas station or places like that. A lot of family restaurants are serving extremely large drinks, and they're family restaurants. This is a learned behavior. I myself have witnessed on a number of occasions family arguments with them that involved a gun, assaulting women, and we kind of set our place up as a place to go for people to kind of work things out so that there could be a separation of space. And we've also called the police a number of times. I cannot fathom not allowing stuff like that to happen. We served lunches in our backyard because families spent too much on alcohol and didn't have enough food to feed their children. So mixed with guns and anger, this is a drug-related problem that passes on from generation to generation. There are good models out there. I think we need to consider monitoring the alcohol situation. These are troubled times, so we've got the complication of diseases and loss of jobs and loss of housing and all sorts of things. And these cause a lot of stress. And what a lot of people turn to is some troubling behaviors. We also are taking people that have been on drugs all their life, and that's what they're used to, and expecting them to cut it off overnight, and that doesn't happen. That's not the way it works. So I think we need to pay attention to all of these and treat them accordingly. I like the fact that we're using more mental health services for that, but that's only part of the problem. I want to thank you for your its time and attention and consideration of the issue. I think it's very important. Thank you.
Thank you. Now we're going to move on to the legislation. There is one more time for comments from citizens after the legislation. I'm going to go to ordinances on the second reading, 21-36.
Ordinance number 21-36 by Mr. Labutus, Mr. Marmy, Mr. Barker, Mr. Rath, and ordinance amending the position classification pay range of the department authorization tables of the City of Newark Department of Public Service Division of Streets and Traffic by creating the classification of equipment operator and setting the compensation therefore.
You've heard the second reading of 21-36. What is your wish?
Mr. President,
Mr. Marmy?
make a motion to adopt ordinance 21-36.
Motion by Mr. Marmy,
Second.
second by Mr. Barker. Is there any discussion on 21-36? Seeing none, Janine, please call the roll vote.
Mr. Fennell?
Yes.
Ms. Hall?
Yes.
Mr. Harris?
Yes.
Ms. Hattiger?
Yes.
Mr. Labutus? Mr. Lang? Mr. Marmy?
Yes.
Mr. Rath?
Yes.
Mr. Barker?
Yes.
Mr. Blake?
Yes.
21-36 passes 8-0. Next on the second reading, we have 21-37.
Ordinance number 21-37 by Mr. Rath, Mr. Marmy, and Mr. Barker, an ordinance authorizing and directing the Newark City Safety Director to certify to the Licking County Auditor the sum of $285,349 incurred by the Newark City Property Maintenance Department with respect to property maintenance violations to be placed as a lien on certain parcels of real property situated in the city of Newark, Ohio.
For second reading of 21-37, what is your wish?
Mr. President,
Mr. Rath.
make a motion to adopt 21-37.
Motion by Mr. Rath,
Second.
second by Mr. Barker. Is there any discussion on 21-37? Seeing none, Janine, please call the roll vote.
Mr. Fennell?
Yes.
Ms. Hall?
Yes.
Mr. Harris?
Yes.
Ms. Hattiger?
Yes.
Mr. Labutus? Mr. Lang? Mr. Marmy?
Yes.
Mr. Rath?
Yes.
Mr. Barker?
Yes.
Mr. Blake?
Yes.
And 21-37 passes 8-0. There are no ordinances on the first reading tonight. We'll go to resolutions on the second reading, 21-69.
Resolution number 21-69 by Mr. Marmy, Mr. Barker, and Mr. Rath, a resolution appropriating monies for current expenses of the municipal corporation.
Heard the second reading of 21-69. What is your wish?
Mr. President,
Mr. Marmy?
make a motion to adopt resolution 21-69.
Motion to adopt by Mr. Marmy.
Second.
Second by Mr. Barker. Is there any discussion on 21-69? Seeing none, Janine, please call the roll vote.
Mr. Fennell?
Yes.
Ms. Hall?
Yes.
Mr. Harris?
Yes.
Ms. Hattiger?
Yes.
Mr. Labutus? Mr. Lang? Mr. Marmy?
Yes.
Mr. Rath?
Yes.
Mr. Barker?
Yes.
Mr. Blake?
Yes.
21-69 passes 8-0. Now we have resolutions on first reading, 21-73.
Resolution number 21-73 expedite by Mr. Marmy and Mr. Barker, a resolution appropriating monies for current expenses of the municipal corporation.
21-73.
Mr. President,
Mr. Marmy.
I make a motion to waive the 2-day reading rule on resolution 21-73.
Motion to waive the 2-day reading rule by Mr. Marmy.
Second.
Second by Mr. Barker. Mr. Marmy.
Thank you, Mr. President. These are kind of some end of the year things that we need to move to certain accounts to make sure we get the bills paid prior to the end of the year.
Thank you, Mr. Marmy. Janine, please call the roll. Waive the 2-day reading rule.
Mr. Fennell?
Yes.
Ms. Hall?
Yes.
Mr. Harris?
Yes.
Mrs. Hattiger?
Yes.
Mr. Labutus? Mr. Lang? Mr. Marmy?
Yes.
Mr. Rath?
Yes.
Mr. Barker?
Yes.
Mr. Blake?
Yes.
2-day reading rule has been waived. Mr. Marmy.
Thank you, Mr. President. Make a motion to adopt resolution 21-73.
Motion to adopt by Mr. Marmy,
Second.
second by Mr. Parker. Is there any other discussion on 21-73? Seeing none, Janine, please call the roll vote.
Mr. Fennell,
Yes.
Ms. Hall,
Yes.
Mr. Harris,
Yes.
Ms. Hattiger,
Yes.
Mr. Labutus, Mr. Lang, Mr. Marmy,
Yes.
Mr. Rath,
Yes.
Mr. Barker,
Yes.
Mr. Blake.
Yes.
21-73 passes 10-0, I'm sorry, 8-0. It's just saying 10. Next, we have 21-74.
Resolution number 21-74 by Mr. Marmy and Mr. Barker, a resolution authorizing and directing the mayor of the city of Newark to prepare and submit applications to the Department of Homeland Security for fiscal year 2021 Fire Act grant programs in support of training programs, equipment purchases, funding for personnel, fire prevention, and fire safety programs throughout the city.
21-74 will be held for 2 weeks until our next meeting on the 20th, and then we go on the first reading to 21-75.
Resolution number 21-75 by Mr. Rath and Mr. Barker. A resolution authorizing all actions necessary to effect a governmental natural gas aggregation program with opt-out provisions pursuant to section 4929.26 of the Ohio Revised Code, directing the Licking County Board of Elections to submit a ballot question to the electors.
And 21-75 will be held for 2 weeks till our next meeting. 21-76.
Resolution number 21-76 by Mr. Rath and Mr. Barker, a resolution authorizing all actions necessary to effect a governmental electricity aggregation program with opt-out provisions pursuant to section 4928.20 of the Ohio Revised Code, directing the Licking County Board of Elections to submit a ballot question to the electors.
And 21-76 will be held for 2 weeks until our next meeting. And finally, we have 21-77.
Resolution number 21-77 by Mr. Rath and Mr. Barker, a resolution authorizing and directing the Director of Public Service to negotiate and enter into a memorandum of understanding with the Newark Sports and Events Commission for construction and management of pickleball courts at the Newark Municipal Ice Rink, subject to the appropriation of funds.
And 21-77 will be held for 2 weeks until our next meeting. And that concludes the legislation this evening. Next, we have our other section of comments from citizens. Again, this is not a debate with council. This is your opportunity to be heard. If you'd like to speak, raise your hand. I'll call you up. Daniel? Anyone else like to speak? Raise your hand now. Okay.
Daniel Crawford, 163 South Second Street. I want to say a number of things, but it's obviously been a little bit since I've been here in council the day before the election. First and foremost, I want to say I'm happy to see that Dee's back. You know, she was gone for a big portion of this year, and I was really worried about her. I haven't even seen her in the store as of late. So good to see you back, Dee.
We're all happy about that.
Oh, yes, yes. Also, about the election, I want to say congratulations to everyone who won. You know, it's never fun to lose, but it's always an awesome experience being able to go door to door, and a privilege to be on the ballot as, you know, an option for the people. So once again, thank you for, you know, that opportunity, you know, to the people of North, I should say. Regarding also that election, Jeremy, I wanted to say, you know, no offense at all whatsoever to Beth Blind, but Jeremy was always going to be my first choice. And, you know, I supported Jeremy for the same reason I didn't run against him, because I thought he was the right person for the job. And Jeremy, I just want to say thank you. I know I said this to you on Messenger. Thank you for your service. I thought you were an awesome member of council, and I hope that Beth can fill those shoes. Speaking finally about that election, I want to say it is greatly concerning to me that it's all going to be one party, but that's not your guys' fault. After all, your job is just to run and give the people an option. And I can't even say it's the people's fault because although they voted for you, this is just how our game is done. So I think that this one partisan council and city that we're going to have gives us a perfect opportunity to consider nonpartisan elections in the city. After all, over the next, you know, 2 to 4 years, this is how the city is going to be run. But that's not to say that you're not going to have disagreements amongst you. So if you're going to have all Republican council, why not just say, you know, at least put it to the ballot? And I know this has been done through the charter. Speaking as someone who sat on the charter commission before, you know, give the people an option to say nonpartisan elections like we do in Heath, because these local issues shouldn't be reduced to partisan bigotry left and right. I mean, 90% of the time legislation is passed almost unanimously, regardless of the partisan division. So I think I'm going to keep, of course, hammering on that. That was a big campaign issue of mine, and regardless of my loss, I think it's the best thing for the people. I think it's more democratic, small d democratic. And also, before I continue on my last point, the young lady who spoke about being homeless, and anyone who speaks, public speaking is hard. It's hard. And I say this even as someone who has gotten a lot of experience over the years. I grew up being very shy. I know it's very nerve-wracking coming up here and knowing that people are looking at you and judging you the whole time. It's a lot of pressure. But if you feel that drive to say something, you know you got to say it. So kudos to everyone who speaks, especially if you haven't spoken before. No matter how unpopular your positions are, whether you're homeless, advocating, like what the Smiths do, or what the gentleman did regarding, a private alternative to police. Like I say, people, you may not disagree with them, but at least we have this opportunity. It's a beautiful thing about living in what we call a free country. And finally, speaking about advocates, since the last council meeting, on, I believe it was November 18th, a good friend of mine passed away. I was just at her memorial service this past Saturday. And I felt it was important to bring up her name here on council because her name was Linda Lovell. And some of you may know who she was. I'm not sure however many of you do, but she was an activist to the end. And one of the special things about her was that she had MS. She had to get around town on an electric wheelchair. And that didn't stop her from speaking out and reaching out to people. You may remember, of course, in 2014 and 2016, my group, 99% in North East Central Ohio, we tried to get a measure on the ballot. In 2016, we did it. We helped make history along with the people who put up the marijuana measure. And the biggest contributor to that was Linda Love. She went all around town, didn't hesitate to approach anyone, and she got so many signatures. And also I have a number of groups or pages rather on Facebook, and she was a primary contributor to that going regularly. And I just can't keep up with the shoes that she left for me to fill. But she was only a year younger than my mom. And she reminded me a lot of my mom, not 100%, but she was an amazing human being. And I think that the city of Newark lost a great citizen on the 18th. And just want to offer that tribute to her. So I won't be here much longer, but I will listen to your responses. I have to get back to my kids. Thank you guys. And I said it before, I love you all. And thank you.
Thank you.
And Merry Christmas.
Thank you. Thank you. Any city officials this evening? Law Director Moore.
Just briefly, good to see you, Deval. I haven't been on council very long, so it's great to see someone sitting there across the table, and I'm glad that you're back. Second, congratulations and thank you to Chief Connor for his service to the city, and I wish him luck in his future endeavors in that past.
Thank you. Mayor Hall.
Yes, I just would like to comment this week, ODOT's building was rededicated with Jerry Ray's name on it. And Jerry is a local resident. Him and Eve live here and was a county engineer many years ago and was in the office of ODOT director for 16 years total under Governor Voinovich and Governor DeWine. And you don't get your name on a building like that from just showing up for work. So I'm being a little facetious, but he has worked very hard and changed a lot of things for the residents of the state of Ohio and did some great things. And we should be very proud to have one of our Newark's own get his name rededicated on the building. So with that, I congratulate Jerry and thank you for all he's done.
So we're thinking Jeff Hall. Just checking. Mr. Fennell.
Thank you, Mr. President. I would also like to welcome back Councilwoman D. Hall. It is truly wonderful to see you back and well and with us this evening. It's been far too long, so it is wonderful to see you. Thank you. Also, as Daniel stated, it is difficult for many people to get up and speak, especially when you're speaking at the podium there and we're all standing here and sitting here staring at you and really not engaging. But I did want to call out just a couple individuals. Mr. Smith, thank you so much for your comments this evening and for bringing us context. I always appreciate that. As someone who works in the library, you know how to get to me, you bring up a book. So thank you for that. I appreciate the context and for encouraging people to continue moving forward with compassion. Jesse, thank you for sharing your story. It takes a lot of courage to come and share something so personal, especially with a room full of strangers. You truly put a face to the issues that we discuss almost every single council. So I agree, we need low barrier shelters. We need transitional housing as well that have low barriers. So we hear you. I'm not necessarily sure exactly what the city can do at this point, but I know that everybody in this room is dedicated to trying to help this community make it stronger. Thank you. And then finally, I would also like to wish Chief Connor well. Thank you so much for the service that you've given to our community. And with that, thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Fennell. Ms. Hall?
Thank you, Mr. President. I want to thank council for your patience and your support, your phone calls, your flowers, cards. Oh my goodness. It's been a long path back, it seems like I've been on another planet called COVID. They don't know a lot about it. They don't know a lot about the vaccines. And I got both at the same time. I don't know if you know that or not, but that was a trip. So yeah, it's been hard getting back. I've had a lot of support from family and friends, and friends going to Giant Eagle for me, and bringing food for cats and me. So thank you. It's good to be back. I wish it could have been sooner. Walking has been difficult, and I'm doing better on that as well. Getting back to my office. Jeannie, thank you for getting me my hard copies of council. At least I could read, see what was going on. And thank you to Bill Cost for delivering it to my front porch. And keeping me posted on what's going on. There's been a lot of changes. My goodness, a lot of different faces. And I wish the best for the new kids on the block. And call me anytime. I always have an opinion. So anyway, put them out sometimes, but it's a learning curve, and it'll be great for you. I want to thank David Rhodes too. Recently, took care of a problem very quickly at Christmas, I believe. Wasn't my ward. I just got the call and kind of passed it on. But like the next day, it was like, wow, thank you. You guys did great. So I'm happy about getting help so quickly. And with that, I will pass. I will see you guys next time if I can get a ride.
I think we'll get that.
Not quite driving yet. Getting to the car is one thing, but driving is another. I've had a lot of physical therapy too, and occupational therapy. So, I mean, anytime if you have any questions. People with vaccines getting COVID still, so it's just, I think, different for every person, really. So, that's why it's really glad that helps. So thank you very much.
Thank you. It's good to see you back. Mr. Harris.
Thank you, Mr. President. Indeed, it's good to see you. Welcome back. I too like to thank everyone for speaking. I'm going to say something tonight that's probably not a popular thing, but first of all, everyone up here cares about the city of Newark homeless problems in this city. But no one wants to talk about how to solve the issue. I think one of the biggest ways we can solve the issue, if we get back to bringing God back in our community, taking kids to Sunday school, learning about Jesus, teaching about the Bible, and you do all that stuff. When they get older, they seem to do the right things. And if we bring God back in this country, go to church, and do the right things, we eliminate a lot of this problem. you can agree or disagree, but that's the way it is. So, also want to thank Eris for doing the pledge. Congratulations, Jerry Ray. I had that on there. There stole my thunder. And January 17th, the Martin Luther King breakfast is going to be happening this year at the Reese Center. And I'd like to see everybody that can come to attend that breakfast. It's a good breakfast. It's a good fundraiser for Far Excellence School. And with that, I'll pass.
Thank you, Mr. Harris. Mrs. Hollinger.
Mr. President, it's nice to see you, even though I'm only going to get to serve with you in the month of December. It's too bad. I like to have other females up here. Just, you know, sometimes we need them up here. Not that I'm looking at you or anything.
Fair enough.
I mean, I'm enough. That's
Sure. More than enough, actually.
And the only other thing I wanted to comment on was to Mrs. Smith in regards to the Rotary playgrounds. I am on the board of the Newark Rotary Club, who's responsible for the playground and the upkeep, and we actually have a committee that we've been talking about. We've got money set aside to be able to work with the city to get those repairs needed. I've seen it firsthand myself, and there's some dangers there. So I don't know what the time frame is, but I will certainly make another note to our board to try to get those things done as soon as we can. So I appreciate the comment.
Thank you, Ms. Hollinger. Mr. Martin.
Thank you, Mr. President. I need to call a finance committee meeting first thing. Dean, welcome back. I've missed you. So I'm very glad to see you. So just in time during this holiday season, it's just a pleasant surprise, actually, and very happy that you're here. So, and I'm glad you're doing better, more importantly. So thank you. I also wanted to just let council know, I never heard anything back about the cost of putting the aggregates back on the ballot. So therefore, I reached out to the Board of Elections and talked with the Board of Elections. From what Brian has indicated, it probably would not be that expensive to put it on in the primary. The reason why there's going to be a primary, and so therefore statewide with the governor and everything else and all the different, so therefore you kind of share in the cost. So if there's already going to be one, now if we were to put one, try to put that on a special election or something like that, yes, it'd be very costly. But if we're looking at that time frame, probably less than $1,000 is what it would cost. And just wanted to share that with everyone on council. So then in 2 weeks, we'll be voting on that, just so you have that additional information. Jesse, thank you very much for what you had to say. You really made some very, very valid points that are definitely resonated in my thoughts. And I just want to segue that over to what Mr. Smith and Mrs. Bowen Smith, we've got to stop treating the symptoms. I agree. You got to get to what the cause of it is, the root of the problem. And, you know, handing out things to help folks out when they're already here. We need to get them back into a situation and give them tools, those that choose to give them tools to get off the streets. And not just give handouts, you know, and if Jesse, like she indicated, and she is out there and she hears it, that there's a perception that Licking County is better, they've got more to give you than they will come. Okay, and we need to stop that if that's all that the thought is. If we want to have a positive perception of Licking County or even Newark, because Newark is the county seat, and then we want to give Newark will get you off the streets and make you a citizen again and somebody who either rents or owns a home and has a job. They will assist you in getting back to where you want to be. Not just Newark and Licking County is a place to get goods and services, okay? So I agree, stop treating the symptoms, let's get to the root of the problem and trying to make sure that we address that. And then finally, just want to comment, I wish I was commenting on a state championship tonight, but unfortunately, the NC football team, the Newark Catholic football team fell a little short. But you do not have any idea. It's always still going to be the goal to be state champions. There's no banner hanging in that gymnasium up there at Newark Catholic that does not say state champions. So that's always the goal. Now that some of these younger kids have gotten that taste, let's hope that they remember that taste and they'll have the drive to succeed and do more. I've been reading a book that's called Chasing Failure. Failure doesn't necessarily have to be a bad thing as long as you learn from it and you overcome it. I don't know if those of you that know, but there's an NBA record of most missed shots. I don't know if you know who that is, but
Shaquille O'Neal?
no, it is not Shaquille O'Neal. It is Kobe Bryant, the great Kobe Bryant. And he always said, I have to practice those shots that I've never taken before in order to know what I need to adjust in order to succeed. So those of you who know about Newark Catholic and their tradition, or whether it be Kobe Bryant or Chasing Failure, just because there's been a failure or a disappointment in your life, do something about it. Daniel, Daniel's not here, but he mentioned about losing. Do something about it. Make it something beneficial. Learn from it and make it something beneficial. And with that, I will pass.
Thank you, Mr. Marmy. Mr. Rath?
Thank you. I'll start out with calling the service committee meeting. Mr. Harris, I have a response to your unpopular statement. Just a simple one-word response. Thank you. Neil, I want to welcome you back. You were sorely missed. You really were. And appreciate all that you had to go through. So glad to see you on the way back up. That's awesome. This time of the year, I always have a tradition, and that is to wish Mr. Waldron a happy birthday from up here. So happy birthday.
Happy birthday to you.
Thank you. I appreciate that. I'd like to say congratulations to Newark Catholic and Granville, both of their football teams. Especially Granville, who made it further than they've ever made it before, which is pretty awesome. Grateful for that. Well, wish the best of luck to Chief Connor and his future endeavors. I want to say thank you to David Rhodes and Barbara Gilks. I think it's been about 4 years since I've been asking to have a dog park in the third ward. We're finally getting one at Reddington Park. I believe construction was scheduled to start today. Very excited about that. Mr. Lehman, Steve Lehman, is he still out there?
I think so.
Okay, I just wanted to tell him welcome to the neighborhood. Building 61 homes, Cherry Valley Road. Very much looking forward to that development and seeing what he can do there. And that's awesome. Congratulations to Jerry Ray, very proud of him. Very proud of all of our third ward residents, but Jerry is a third ward resident, so very proud of that. And then there were a lot of other comments that went on tonight. I appreciate all the comments and all the opinions. I appreciate your interpretation of the Second Amendment, although I prefer to rely on the Supreme Court for that. Thank goodness. And I guess I'll sum it all up with one of my favorite quotes that reminded me of, and that is that 47.6% of all statistics are made up on the spot. If you want to quote me on that, I'll repeat it. 34.8% of all statistics are made up on the spot. With that, Mr. President, I'll pass.
Thank you, Mr. Rath. Mr. Parker?
Thank you, Mr. President. I just would echo everyone's comments tonight. You know, we always say that we echo comments, but we do truly care. That's one thing I want to point out is that everyone that comes here, we then take all that feedback back then with the administration and with council, our safety forces, safety director, and we have these discussions and we get these calls. So it doesn't stop here. It continues on for us 24/7 when we leave this chamber. So we do care very much. I want to do a couple thank yous. Director Rhodes, appreciate his help with a fence issue that was, I don't understand how someone puts a fence 2 feet over on someone else's property and thinks it's theirs, but Director Rhodes and the engineering department and zoning have helped out that citizen greatly to get this resolved. I also want to thank Roger Loomis and our water department team. Sometimes they don't, get the shout outs they deserve. The day before Thanksgiving, I called Roger and I said, Roger, there's water running down my street and I don't know where it's coming from. And Roger promptly said, well, why don't you just go plug the hole? And I said, well, I don't know where it's coming from. And about 5 minutes after, 7 minutes after that, the water team was there. I don't exactly know what the issue was, but it got stopped about 30 minutes later. So this is that time of year where the cold can affect our water system. And Roger, you and your team, you do great work, and we and the citizens greatly appreciate that. I want to say, D Hall, fantastic to have you back. Very good to see you. I know we talked on the phone a couple times as you're going through everything. And again, it's just good to see you here tonight. And with that, Mr. President, I will pass.
Thank you, Mr. President. 100% of people up here, by the way, are glad you're done. So it's just you can add to your thing. Mr. Blake.
Let me move on. Thank you, Mr. President. Welcome to DePaul. Glad that you're in good health and return to council. So welcome back. And everyone's your last person speaking, so you kind of just let everyone say everything, but welcome back. So, I do want to give some thank yous to Lick Memorial Hospital, Job and Family Services, United Way, Mental Health Recovery Board, and the Licking County Foundation. This year, I had the opportunity to work with them on funding a neighborhood outreach specialist that will focus on people with addiction and mental health concerns. And that person has finally been hired. They started last week, and so they're out there doing good work in our community. And so there's many comments were made about the homeless population and how to address it. And one of the avenues that I worked on was specifically looking at addiction and mental health concerns, substance use issues. And so that position is going to help greatly. Just want to give a report out to council that the Care Now clinic that opened up across from Speedway on East Main Street, they've been seeing about a dozen clients a day. And so it is most definitely a needed resource that we've needed for a while. And it's very much the word is getting out to direct folks to get care there. Again, it's dealing with substance abuse, mental health issues, trying to get folks into the right avenue of care, especially those that are out on our streets and needing that proper care. And so it's BHP is doing a great job with both of those topics. I want to give a big thanks to Chief Connor. I think that, I just to go on a side note, I remember when my grandmother passed, Chief Connor and the fire department came and handled the situation. And we as men don't just say these things too often, but me and the chief gave a big hug, and I just will always remember that and appreciate the compassion and care that he gave. And he's done great things for our city, but that's just a personal thing to always remember him for, just having that, just being there. So I wish him best of luck, his new endeavor, but just want to thank him publicly for everything that he's done for our community and especially for my family. The other comments that were made, Daniel's left, but I do appreciate him bringing up Linda Lovell. Linda was a member of my congregation, church congregation, and she was very passionate about public transportation and advocating for issues that are need to be addressed in our community. But Linda was a great person, and I'm glad that he brought her up tonight. So that was very fitting. But just everyone, just stay warm, stay safe, stay healthy, and with that, I'll be up.
Thank you, Mr. Blake. Steve, good to see you back and healthy. Nice to have you back. We missed you, definitely. I'd like to thank everyone who spoke tonight. We always appreciate your opinion. you may not agree with some of the things we say, but we certainly appreciate you coming in and letting us know how you feel. So that's what this is all about. That's why this is your city council. So our next and final committee meeting will be December 20th, 5:45, and next and last full council for this year will be that same night, the 20th at 7 p.m. With that, is there a motion to adjourn? Motion by Mr. Harris, second by Mr. Rath. All in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign.